So while we're waiting for Monica, why don't we do our standard little check-in? How's your relationship to these last 4 chapters? And let's go in the order of how you are on my screen, and that would be Teiko, Kemio, Kakuon, Shokai, and Emily. You want to start us off, Teiko?
No. Is it okay to pass? Is that possible?
Yes.
I think I'll pass. Yeah.
Okay. Kemio?
Okay. Am I unmuted? I think the big question I'm entering this last class with is what is the true mind? Felt like there were some pieces about that in the last couple chapters which reminded me of questions I had in earlier chapters about the true mind having no appearance. And then there were some interesting things about appearances in these last chapters. And then the other thing, mostly what I wrote about in my reflection was just being really moved by the metaphor of Dharma as a raft, and that Buddhas know rafts, see rafts, and trust rafts. So that was my big takeaway. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kakuon?
Man, there was a lot there. I'm kind of running out of ways to phrase this stuff that isn't like, it's like being on a bunch of acid, man. But the coming off of being on this has been really intriguing to me, because my perspective has, like, I've noticed that my perspective on just sort of fundamental, like, how to be in the world things has shifted. It's cured me of some of my affection for sort of poetic and esoteric ways of approaching this stuff, but it's still too close for me to really report what it is, but just that things seem different now, very same but the different. And I'm gonna miss having my face up in a sutra really hard. It's been like a whole season of that, and that's been a pleasant experience.
Okay, Shokai?
I maintain that the original question was never answered. How you stand, perhaps to the degree that what one should, how to control one's thoughts, but it's all in the negative. Don't do this, don't do that.
Okay, Emily?
This has tied in well for me with work that I'm doing personally as well, in terms of questioning what's real. A part of the work that I'm doing outside of this is really about being present and being aware of what's happening and what's real around you. And these last few chapters have kind of gotten back to that, and spoken to that you can't really know what's real, and so you do what you can, and you validate and you verify as much as you can, and ultimately none of it is really going to matter in the end, I guess, which sounds perhaps a little, I don't know, negative, or but that's not how I'm experiencing it. I'm experiencing it as freeing.
Okay, thank you. Monica, you just joined us. We just did our sort of standard check-in in terms of how we're relating to these last 4 chapters.
Okay.
You're the last one if you want to give it a go.
Good timing, I guess. I don't really have anything like new, I guess, from these last readings? I think I have to say, I'm kind of relieved that it's over a little bit, because it was just a lot of, it was kind of intense, the whole thing. But yeah, I think that's all really, I guess.
All right. I had a sense that as the sutra wrapped up towards the end, that the comments would get more and more. Small is not the right word, but harder to put into words.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So we can do a couple of things today. We could do our standard, let's work through the chapters and address questions or comments that come up and talk about places that we really liked. Hi, Loaf. Or we could do that exercise of reading the sutra and having somebody read Shakyamuni's parts and somebody read Subhuti's parts, and see how that goes. See how it goes as a dialogue, so you can hear the play back and forth between what the Buddha is saying and what Subhuti is asking. That's another option. Are there any strong preferences for one or the other?
I'd like to do the reading or hear it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any objections to doing the reading?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Who would like to read the Buddha's part?
I'll try.
Okay. And who would like to be Subhuti?
Oh, I thought you said Subhuti.
Oh, you want to be Subhuti?
Yeah, the guy who doesn't know.
Oh, kitty.
We've got at least 2 kitties with us today. Who's going to give voice to Shakyamuni?
Nobody wants to be the Buddha. Everybody's scared to be the Buddha. I'm scared to be.
Pardon?
I'll be the Buddha, I guess. I
Okay.
mean, that. Is there also a narrator who, for instance, who says, "Thus I have heard"?
Let's see. How about I will read Ananda's part up into the beginning of page 2. I'll read pressing his palms together and bowing, and then I'll stop there, and then we'll just let the dialogue pick up. How's that? And then if there's other like little narrative parts that indicate whatever. I don't think there's a whole lot of narrative descriptive stuff after that point, so we'll just see how it goes. Are you ready? All right. Thus have I heard. Once the Bhagavan was dwelling near Shravasti at Anantapindada garden in Jeddah forest, together with the full assembly of 1,250 bhikshus and a great many fearless bodhisattvas. One day before noon, the Bhagavan put on his patched robe and picked up his bowl and entered the capital of Shravasti for offerings. After begging for food in the city and eating his meal of rice, he returned from his daily round in the afternoon, put his robe and bowl away, washed his feet, and sat down on the appointed seat. After crossing his legs and adjusting his body, he turned his awareness to what was before him. A number of bhikshus then came up to where the Bhagavan was sitting. After touching their heads to his feet, they walked around him to the right 3 times and sat down to one side. On this occasion, the Venerable Subhuti was also present in the assembly. Rising from his seat, he uncovered one shoulder and touched his right knee to the ground. Pressing his palms together and bowing to the Buddha, he said,
It is rare, Bhagavan, most rare indeed, Sugata. how the Tathagata, the Arhan, the fully enlightened one, blesses fearless bodhisattvas with the best of blessings. And it is rare, Bhagavan, how the Tathagata, the Arhan, the fully enlightened one, entrusts fearless bodhisattvas with the greatest of trusts. Even so, Bhagavan, if a noble son or daughter should set forth on the bodhisattva path, how should they stand, how should they walk, and how should they control their thoughts?
Well said, Subhuti. Well said. So it is, Subhuti. It is as you say. The Tathagata blesses fearless bodhisattvas with the best of blessings and entrusts fearless bodhisattvas with the greatest of trusts. You should therefore truly listen, Subhuti, and consider this well. I shall tell you how those who set forth on the bodhisattva path should stand, how they should walk, and how they should control their thoughts.
May it be so, Bhagavan.
Subhuti, those who would now set forth on the bodhisattva path should thus give birth to this thought. However many beings there are in whatever realms of being might exist, whether they are born from an egg or born from a womb, born from the water or born from the air, whether they have form or no form, whether they have perception or no perception, or neither perception nor no perception, in what conceivable realm of being one might conceive of beings. In the realm of complete nirvana, I shall liberate them all. And though I thus liberate countless beings, not a single being is liberated. And why not? Subhuti, a bodhisattva who creates the perception of a being cannot be called a bodhisattva. And why not? Subhuti, no one can be called a bodhisattva who creates the perception of a self, or who creates the perception of a being, a life, or a soul. Moreover, Subhuti, when bodhisattvas give a gift, they should not be attached to a thing. When they give a gift, they should not be attached to anything at all. They should not be attached to a sight when they give a gift, nor should they be attached to a sound, a smell, a taste, a touch, or a dharma when they give a gift. Thus, Subhuti, fearless bodhisattvas should give a gift without being attached to the perception of an object. And why? Subhuti, the body of merit of those bodhisattvas who give a gift without being attached is not easy to measure. What do you think, Subhuti? Is the space to the east easy to measure?
No, it is not, Bhagavan.
Likewise, is the space to the south, to the west, to the north, in between, above, below, or in any of the 10 directions easy to measure?
No, it is not, Bhagavan.
So it is, Subhuti, the body of merit of those bodhisattvas who give a gift without being attached is not easy to measure. Thus, Subhuti, those who set forth on the bodhisattva path should give a gift without being attached to the perception of an object. What do you think, Subhuti? Can the Tathagata be seen by means of the possessions of attributes?
No, indeed, Bhagavan. The Tathagata cannot be seen by means of possession of attributes. And why not? Bhagavan, what the Tathagata says is the perception of attributes is no perception of attributes.
Since the perception of attributes is an illusion, Subhuti, and no perception of attributes is no illusion, by means of attributes that are no attributes, the Tathagata can indeed be seen.
Bhagavan, will there be any beings in the future, in the final epoch, in the final period, in the final 500 years of the Dharma ending age, who give birth to a perception of the truth of the words of a sutta such as that spoken here?
Subhuti, do not ask, will there be any beings in the future, in the final epoch, in the final period, in the final 500 years of the Dharma ending age, who give birth to the perception of the truth of the words of a sutra such as that spoken here? Surely, Subhuti, in the future, in the final epoch, in the final period, in the final 500 years of the Dharma ending age, there will be fearless bodhisattvas who are capable, virtuous, and wise, and who give birth to a perception of the truth of the words of a sutra, such as that spoken here. Indeed, Subhuti, such fearless bodhisattvas will have honored not just one Buddha, and they will have planted auspicious roots before not just one Buddha. Surely, Subhuti, such fearless bodhisattvas will have honored countless hundreds and thousands of Buddhas, and they will have planted auspicious roots before countless hundreds and thousands of Buddhas. In the words of a sutra such as that spoken here, they are sure to gain perfect clarity of mind. The Tathagata knows them, Subhuti, by means of his Buddha knowledge, and the Tathagata sees them, Subhuti, by means of his Buddha vision. The Tathagata is aware of them, Subhuti, for they all produce and receive a measureless, infinite body of merit. And how so? Because, Subhuti, these fearless bodhisattvas do not create the perception of a self, nor do they create the perception of a being, a life, or a soul. Nor, Subhuti, do these fearless bodhisattvas create the perception of a dharma, much less the perception of no dharma. Subhuti, they do not create a perception nor no perception. And why not? Because, Subhuti, if these fearless bodhisattvas created the perception of a dharma, they would be attached to a self, a being, a life, and a soul. Likewise, if they created the perception of no dharma, they would be attached to a self, a being, a life, and a soul. And why not? Because surely, Subhuti, fearless bodhisattvas do not cling to a dharma, much less to no dharma. This is the meaning behind the Tathagata's saying, a dharma teaching is like a raft. If you should let go of dharmas, how much more so no dharmas?
I'm going to break in 1 second. When you guys get tired of reading, if you do, because this is a lot, feel free to tag someone else.
I'm ready to tag someone else. Any volunteers? Page 5. Yeah.
Give me a sec. Sure, I'll go be Buddha.
Thank you, Kakawan.
Sorry, everything I just said, nobody heard. I was just listening. I wasn't, what page were we on?
5.
Page 5, chapter
Page 5.
7, beginning.
Sorry, where am I starting? I got page 5. Where on the page?
Chapter 7.
Bottom of the page.
Okay. And Kakawan, you're Buddha?
Apparently.
Go for it.
What do you think, Subhuti? Did the Tathagata realize any such dharma as unexcelled perfect enlightenment? And does the Tathagata teach any such dharma?
Bhagavan, as I understand the meaning of what the Buddha says, the Tathagata did not realize any such dharma as unexcelled perfect enlightenment, nor does the Tathagata teach such a dharma. And why? Because this dharma, realized and taught by the Tathagata, is incomprehensible and inexpressible, and neither a dharma nor no dharma. And why? Because sages arise from what is uncreated.
Subhuti, what do you think? If some noble son or daughter filled the billion worlds of this universe with the 7 jewels, and gave them as a gift to the Tathagatas, the Arhans, the fully enlightened ones, would the body of merit produced as a result by this noble son or daughter be great?
Great indeed, Bhagavan. The body of merit produced as a result by that noble son or daughter would be great, Sugata. And how so? Bhagavan, whatever is said by the Tathagata to be a body of merit is said by the Tathagata to be no body. Thus does the Tathagata speak of a body of merit as a body of merit.
Subhuti, if instead of filling the billion worlds of this universe with the 7 jewels, and giving them as a gift to the Tathagatas, the Arhans, the fully enlightened ones, This noble son or daughter grasped but one four-line gatha of this Dharma teaching, and made it known and explained it in detail to others. The body of merit produced as a result would be immeasurably, infinitely greater. And how so? Subhuti, from this is born the unexcelled perfect enlightenment of Tathagatas, Arhans, and fully enlightened ones. From this are born Buddhas and Bhagavans. And how so? Buddha Dharmas, Subhuti. Buddha Dharmas are spoken of by the Tathagata as no Buddha Dharmas. Thus are they called Buddha Dharmas. Tell me, Subhuti, do those who find the river think, I have attained the goal of finding the river?
No, indeed, Bhagavan. Those who find the river do not think, I have attained the goal of finding the river. And why not? Bhagavan, they do not find any such dharma. Thus are they said to find the river. They do not find a sight, nor do they find a sound, a smell, a taste, a touch, or a dharma. Thus are they said to find the river. Bhagavan, if those who found the river should think, I have attained the goal of finding the river, they would be attached to a self. They would be attached to a being, a life, and a soul.
Tell me, Subhuti, do those who return once more think, I have attained the goal of returning once more?
No, indeed, Bhagavan. Those who return once more do not think, I have attained the goal of returning once more. And why not? Bhagavan, they do not find any such dharma as returning once more. Thus they are said to return once more.
Tell me, Subhuti, do those who return no more think, I have again attained the goal of returning no more?
No, indeed, Bhagavan. Those who return no more do not think, I have attained the goal of returning no more. And why not? Bhagavan, they do not find any such dharma as returning no more. Thus are they said to return no more.
Tell me, Subhuti, do those who are free from rebirth think, I have attained freedom from rebirth?
No, indeed, Bhagavan. Those who are free from rebirth do not think, I have attained freedom from rebirth. And why not? Bhagavan, there is no such dharma as freedom from rebirth. Thus are they said to be free from rebirth. If Bhagavan, those who are free from rebirth should think, I have attained freedom from rebirth, they would be attached to a self. They would be attached to a being, a life, and a soul. And how so? Is that me still? And how so? Bhagavan, the Tathagata, the Arhan, the fully enlightened one, has declared that I am foremost amongst those who dwell free of passion. Bhagavan, although I am free from rebirth and without desires, I do not think I am free from rebirth and without desires. Bhagavan, if I thought I have attained freedom from rebirth, the Tathagata would not have singled me out by saying foremost among those who dwell free of passion is the noble son Subhuti, for he dwells nowhere at all. Thus is he called one who dwells free of passion, who dwells free of passion.
Subhuti, what do you think? Did the Tathagata obtain any such dharma in the presence of Dipankara Tathagata, the Arhan, the fully enlightened one?
No, indeed, Bhagavan, the Tathagata did not obtain any such dharma in the presence of Dipankara Tathagata, the Arhan, the fully enlightened one.
Subhuti, if any bodhisattva should thus claim, I shall bring about the transformation of a world, such a claim would be untrue. And how so? The transformation of a world, Subhuti, the transformation of a world is said by the Tathagata to be no transformation. Thus it is called the transformation of a world. Therefore, Subhuti, fearless bodhisattvas should thus give birth to a thought that is not attached, and not give birth to a thought attached to anything. They should not give birth to a thought attached to a sight, nor should they give birth to a thought attached to a sound, a smell, a taste, a touch, or a dharma. Subhuti, imagine a person with an immense perfect body whose self-existence is like that of Mount Sumeru. What do you think, Subhuti? Would such self-existence be great?
Great indeed, Bhagavan. Such self-existence would be great, Sugata. And why? Because self-existence, Bhagavan, self-existence is said by the Tathagata to be no existence. Thus is it called self-existence. Because Bhagavan, it is neither existence nor no existence. Thus it is called self-existence.
Subhuti, what do you think? If there were as many rivers as there are grains of sand in the great river of the Ganges, would the number of grains of sand in all those rivers be great?
The number of rivers would be great, Bhagavan. How much more so their grains of sand?
I shall tell you, Subhuti, so you shall know. If a man or woman filled as many worlds as there are grains of sand in all those rivers with the 7 jewels and gave them as a gift to the Tathagatas, the Arhans, the fully enlightened ones, what do you think, Subhuti? Would the body of merit produced as a result by that man or woman be great?
It would be great, Bhagavan, great indeed, Sugata. The body of merit produced as a result by that man or woman would be immeasurable and infinite.
Subhuti, if then a man or woman filled as many worlds as that with the 7 jewels and gave them as a gift to the Tathagatas, the Arhans, the fully enlightened ones, and a noble son or daughter grasped but one 4-line gata of this Dharma teaching and made it known and explained it to others, the body of merit produced as a result would be immeasurably, infinitely greater. Furthermore, Subhuti, wherever but one 4-line gata of this Dharma teaching is spoken or explained, that place is like a stupa in the world of devas, humans, and asuras. How much more shall they be remarkably blessed, Subhuti, who memorize, recite, and master this entire teaching, and explain it in detail to others. For in that place, Subhuti, dwells a teacher or one who represents the guru of wisdom.
Bhagavan, what is the name of this Dharma teaching and how should we remember it?
The name of this Dharma teaching, Subhuti, is the perfection of wisdom. Thus should you remember it. And how so? Subhuti, what the Tathagata says is the perfection of wisdom. The Tathagata says is no perfection. Thus is it called the perfection of wisdom. Subhuti, what do you think? Is there any such Dharma spoken by the Tathagata?
No, indeed, Bhagavan, there is no such Dharma spoken by the Tathagata.
Subhuti, what do you think? Are all the specks of dust in the billion world system of a universe many?
Many, Bhagavan, the specks of dust are many, Sugata. And how so? Because, Bhagavan, what the Tathagata says is a speck of dust, Bhagavan, the Tathagata says is no speck. Thus is it called a speck of dust. And what the Tathagata says is a world system, the Tathagata says is no system. Thus is it called a world system.
Subhuti, what do you think? Can the Tathagata, the Arhan, the fully enlightened one, be seen by the means of the 32 attributes of a perfect person?
No, indeed, Bhagavan, the Tathagata, the Arhan, the fully enlightened one, cannot be seen by means of the 32 attributes of a perfect person. And why not? Because, Bhagavan, what the Tathagata says are the 32 attributes of a perfect person, Bhagavan. The Tathagata says are no attributes. Thus are they called the 32 attributes of a perfect person.
Furthermore, Subhuti, if a man or woman renounce their self-existence every day, as many times as there are grains of sand in the Ganges, and renounce their self-existence in this manner, for as many kalpas as there are grains of sand in the Ganges, and someone grasped but one 4-line gata of this Dharma teaching and made it known and explained it to others, the body of merit produced as a result would be immeasurably, infinitely greater. My voice is completely just falling down by the wayside.
All right, are we ready to switch again?
Sure, I'll be right back. Someone's knocking. Don't wait for me.
Okay. Emily and Monica, would you be willing to read?
Sure.
One of you take Buddha and one of you take Subhuti.
Sure, I can do Buddha. Can you guys hear me okay? Should I put in my headphones? Okay. All right. Let me see here. Okay, so I don't start.
Nope, it looks like, how remarkable, Bhagavan. How most remarkable. Sugata, is this Dharma teaching that the Bhagavan speaks for the benefit of those beings who seek the foremost paths, for the benefit of those who seek the best of paths, and from which my own awareness is born. Bhagavan, I have never heard such a teaching as this. They shall be the most remarkably blessed of the Bodhisattvas. Bhagavan, who hear what is said in this sutra and give birth to a perception of its truth. And how so, Bhagavan? A perception of its truth is no perception of its truth. Thus does the Tathagata speak of a perception of its truth as a perception of its truth. Hearing such a Dharma teaching as this, Bhagavan, it is not remarkable that I should trust and believe it. But in the future, Bhagavan, in the final epoch, in the final period, in the final 500 years of the Dharma ending age, Bhagavan, those beings who grasp this Dharma teaching and memorize it, recite it, master it, and explain it in details to others, they shall be most remarkably blessed. Moreover, Bhagavan, they should not create the perception of self, nor shall they create the perception of a being, the perception of a life, or the perception of a soul. They shall create neither perception nor no perception. And why not, Bhagavan? The perception of a self is no perception, and the perception of a being, a life, or a soul is also no perception. And why not? Because Buddhas and Bhagavans are free of all perceptions.
So it is, Subhuti, so it is. Those beings shall be most remarkably blessed, Subhuti, who are not alarmed, not frightened, and not distressed by what is said in the sutra. And how so? Subhuti, with the Tathagata, oh gosh, I cannot pronounce this, with the Tathagata proclaims as the best of perfections is, in truth, no perfection. Moreover, Subhuti, what the Tathagata proclaims as the best of perfections is also proclaimed by countless Buddhas and Bhagavans. Thus it is called the best of perfections. So too, Subhuti, is the Tathagata's perfection of forbearance no perfection. And how so? Subhuti, when King Kali cut off my limbs, my ears and nose, and my flesh, at that moment I had no perception of a self, a being, a life, or a soul. I had neither a perception nor no perception. And why not? At that moment, Subhuti, if I had had the perception of a self, at that moment, I would have also had the perception of anger. Or if I had had the perception of a being, the perception of a life, or the perception of a soul, at that moment, I would have had the perception of anger. And how so? Subhuti, I recall the 500 lifetimes I was the mendicant, Kshanti, and during that time I had no perception of a self, nor did I have the perception of a being, the perception of a life, or the perception of a soul. Therefore, Subhuti, fearless bodhisattvas should get rid of all perceptions in giving birth to the thought of unexcelled perfect enlightenment. They should not give birth to a thought attached to a sight, nor should they give birth to a thought attached to a sound, a smell, a taste, a touch, or a dharma. They should not give birth to a thought attached to a dharma, nor should they give birth to a thought attached to no dharma. They should not give birth to a thought attached to anything. And why not? Every attachment is no attachment. Thus the Tathagata says that bodhisattvas should give gifts without being attached. They should give gifts without being attached to a sight, a sound, a smell, a taste, a touch, or a dharma. Moreover, Subhuti, bodhisattvas should practice charity in this manner for the benefit of all beings. And how so? Subhuti, the perception of a being is no perception. Likewise, all the beings of whom the Tathagata speaks are thus no beings. And how so? Subhuti, what the Tathagata says is real. What the Tathagata says is true and is as he says it is, and not, it is how he says it is, and is not other than as he says it is. When the Tathagata says, what the Tathagata says is not false. Moreover, Subhuti, in the Dharma realized, taught, and reflected on by the Tathagata, there is nothing true and nothing false. Subhuti, imagine a person who enters a dark place and who can't see a thing. He is like a bodhisattva ruled by objects, like someone practicing charity ruled by objects. Now, Subhuti, imagine a person with eyesight at the end of the night when the sun shines forth who can see all manner of things. He is like a bodhisattva not ruled by objects, like someone practicing charity not ruled by objects. Furthermore, Subhuti, if a noble son or daughter should grasp this Dharma, reach teaching and memorize it, recite it, master it, and explain it in detail to others, the Tathagata will know them, Subhuti, by means of his Buddha knowledge. And the Tathagata will see them, Subhuti, by means of his Buddha vision. The Tathagata will be aware of them. For all such beings produce and obtain an immeasurable, infinite body of merits. Furthermore, Subhuti, if a man or woman renounce their self-existence during the morning, as many times as there are grains of sand in the Ganges, am I pronouncing Ganges right? Ganges. And likewise renounce their self-existence during midday, as many times as there are grains of sand in the Ganges, and renounce their self-existence during the afternoon, as many times as there are grains of sand in the Ganges, and renounce their self-existence in this manner for many hundreds and thousands of millions and trillions of kalpas, and someone heard this Dharma teaching and do not reject it, the body of merit produced as a result would be immeasurably, infinitely greater. How much more so if they not only wrote it down, but grasped it, memorized it, recited it, mastered it, and explained it in detail to others. Furthermore, Subhuti, inconceivable and incomparable is this Dharma teaching. This Dharma teaching, spoken by the Tathagata, Subhuti, for the benefit of those beings who set forth on the foremost of paths, for the benefit of those beings who set forth on the best of paths. For if someone grasps, memorizes, recites, and masters this Dharma teaching, and explains it in detail to others, the Tathagata will know them, Subhuti, by means of his Buddha knowledge. And the Tathagata will see them, Subhuti, by means of his Buddha vision. The Tathagata will be aware of them, Subhuti. For all such beings produce a body of merit that has no limits, a body of merit that is inconceivable, incomparable, immeasurable, and boundless. For all such beings as these, Subhuti, likewise wear enlightenment upon their shoulders. And how so? Subhuti, this Dharma teaching cannot be heard by beings of lesser aspiration, not by those who mistakenly perceive a self, nor by those who mistakenly perceive a being, a life, or a soul. For beings who lack the Bodhisattva's aspiration cannot hear, grasp, memorize, recite, or master this Dharma teaching. Moreover, Subhuti, wherever this sutra is explained, that place shall be honored. Whether in the realm of devas, humans, or asuras, that place shall be honored with prostrations and circumambulations. That place shall be like a stupa. Nevertheless, Subhuti, the noble son or daughter who grasps, memorizes, recites, and masters such a sutra as this, and contemplates it thoroughly and explains it in detail to others, will suffer their contempt, their utter contempt. And how could this be? Subhuti, the bad karma created by those in their past lives should result in an unfortunate rebirth. But now, by suffering such contempt, they put an end to the bad karma of their past lives and attain the enlightenment of Buddhas. Subhuti, I recall in the past, during the countless infinite kalpas before Dipankara Tathagata, the Arhan, the fully enlightened one, I served 8,400,000 million trillion other Buddhas and served them without fail. Nevertheless, Subhuti, although I served those Buddhas and Bhagavans and served them without fail, in the future, in the final epoch, in the final period, in the final 500 years of the Dharma ending age, the body of merit of the person who grasps, memorizes, recites, and masters such a sutra as this, and explains it in detail to others, will exceed my former body of merit, not by 100-fold, or 1,000-fold, or 100,000-fold, or 1,000,000-fold, or 100,000,000-fold, or 1,000,000,000-fold, or 100,000,000,000-fold, but by an amount that cannot be measured, calculated, illustrated, characterized, or even imagined. Subhuti, if I were to describe this noble son or daughter's body of merit, the full extent of the body of merit this noble son or daughter would thereby produce and obtain, it would bewilder or disturb people's minds. Furthermore, Subhuti, inconceivable and incomparable is this Dharma teaching spoken by the Tathagata, and inconceivable is the result you should expect.
Bhagavan, if someone sets forth on the Bodhisattva path, how should they stand? How should they walk? And how should they control their thoughts?
Subhuti, someone who sets forth on the Bodhisattva path should give birth to the thoughts, in the realm of complete nirvana, I shall liberate all beings. And while I thus liberate beings, not a single being is liberated. And why not? Subhuti, a bodhisattva who creates the perception of a being, cannot be called a bodhisattva. Neither can someone who creates perception of a life or even the perception of a soul be called a bodhisattva. And why not? Subhuti, there is no such dharma as setting forth on the bodhisattva path. What do you think, Subhuti? When the Tathagata was the Dipankara Tathagata, did he realize any such dharmas as unexcelled perfect enlightenment?
Bhagavan, as I understand the meaning of what the Tathagata has taught, when the Tathagata was with Dipankara Tathagata, the Aran, the fully enlightened one, he did not realize any such dharma as unexcelled perfect enlightenment.
So it is, Subhuti. So it is. So when the Tathagata was with Dipankara Tathagata, the Arhan, the fully enlightened one, he did not realize any such dharma as unexcelled perfect enlightenment. Subhuti, if the Tathagata had realized any dharma, Dipankara Tathagata would not have prophesied, young man, in the future you shall become the Tathagata, the Arhan, the fully enlightened one named Shakyamuni. Subhuti, it was because the Tathagata, the Arhan, the fully enlightened one, did not realize any such dharma as unexcelled perfect enlightenment that Dipankara Tathagata prophesied, young man, in the future you shall become the Tathagata, the Arhan, the fully enlightened one named Shakyamuni. And how so? Tathagata, am I doing this right? Let's see. Oh. And how so? Tathagata, Subhuti, is another name for what is truly real. Tathagata, Subhuti, is another name for the Dharma with no beginning. Tathagata, Subhuti, is another name for the end of Dharmas. Tathagata, Subhuti, is another name for what never begins. And how so? No beginning, Subhuti, is the highest truth. I lost my place. Subhuti, if anyone should claim the Tathagata, the Arhan, the fully enlightened one, realized unexcelled perfect enlightenment, such a claim would be untrue. Subhuti, they would be making a false statement about me. And how so? Subhuti, the Tathagata, did not realize any such dharma as unexcelled perfect enlightenment. Furthermore, Subhuti, in the dharma realized or taught by the Tathagata, there is nothing true and nothing false. Thus, the Tathagata says, all dharmas are Buddha dharmas. And how so? All dharmas, Subhuti, are said by the Tathagata to be no dharmas. Thus, are all dharmas called the Buddha dharmas. Subhuti, imagine a perfect person with an immense perfect body.
Bhagavan, this perfect person, whom the Tathagata says has an immense perfect body, Bhagavan, the Tathagata says has no body. Thus it is called an immense perfect body.
So it is, Subhuti. And if a bodhisattva says, I shall liberate other beings, that person is not called a bodhisattva. And why not? Subhuti, is there any such dharma as a bodhisattva?
No, indeed, Bhagavan, there is no such dharma as a bodhisattva.
And beings, Subhuti, beings are said by the Tathagata to be no beings. Thus are they called beings. And thus does the Tathagata say, all dharmas have no self, all dharmas have no life, no individuality, and no soul. Subhuti, if a bodhisattva should thus claim, I shall bring about the transformation of a world, such a claim would be untrue. And how so? The transformation of a world, Subhuti, the transformation of a world is said by the Tathagata to be no transformation. Thus, it is called the transformation of a world. Subhuti, when a bodhisattva resolves on selfless dharmas as selfless dharmas, the Tathagata, the Arhan, the fully enlightened one, pronounces that person a fearless bodhisattva. I think I'm done. Can somebody take over?
I'll read for the Buddha.
Okay. My eyes are tired.
Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata possess a physical eye?
So he does, Bhagavan. The Tathagata possesses a physical eye.
Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata possess a divine eye?
So he does, Bhagavan. The Tathagata possesses a divine eye.
Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata possess a prajna eye?
So he does, Bhagavan. The Tathagata possesses a prajna eye.
Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata possess a Dharma eye?
So he does, Bhagavan. The Tathagata possesses a Dharma eye.
Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Tathagata possess a Buddha eye?
So he does, Bhagavan. The Tathagata possesses a Buddha eye.
Subhuti, what do you think? As many grains of sand as there are in the great river of the Ganges, does the Tathagata not speak of them as grains of sand?
So he does, Bhagavan. So he does, Sugata. The Tathagata speaks of them as grains of sand.
What do you think, Subhuti? If there were as many rivers as all the grains of sand in the great river of the Ganges, and as many worlds as there are grains of sand in all these rivers, would there be many worlds?
So there would, Bhagavan. So there would, Sugata. There would be many worlds.
And as many beings as there might be in those worlds, Subhuti, I would know their myriad streams of thought. And how so? Streams of thought, Subhuti. What the Tathagata speaks of as streams of thought are no streams. Thus they are called streams of thought. And how so? Subhuti, a past thought cannot be found. A future thought cannot be found. Nor can a present thought be found. Subhuti, what do you think? If some noble son or daughter filled the billion worlds of this universe with the 7 jewels, and gave them all as a gift to the Tathagatas, the Arhans, the fully enlightened ones, would the body of merit produced as a result by that noble son or daughter be great?
Great indeed, Bhagavan. It would be great, Sugata.
So it would, Subhuti, so it would. The body of merit produced as a result by that noble son or daughter would be immeasurably, infinitely great. And how so? A body of merit, Subhuti. A body of merit is spoken of by the Tathagata as no body. Thus it is called a body of merit. Subhuti, if there were a body of merit, the Tathagata would not have spoken of a body of merit as a body of merit. Subhuti, what do you think? Can the Tathagata be seen by means of the perfect development of the physical body?
No, indeed, Bhagavan. The Tathagata cannot be seen by means of the perfect development of the physical body. And why not? The perfect development of the physical body, Bhagavan, the perfect development of the physical body is spoken of by the Tathagata as no development. Thus it is called the perfect development of the physical body.
Subhuti, what do you think? Can the Tathagata be seen by means of the possession of attributes?
No, indeed, Bhagavan. The Tathagata cannot be seen by means of possession of attributes. And why not? Bhagavan, what the Tathagata speaks of as the possession of attributes is spoken of by the Tathagata as no possession of attributes. Thus, it is called possession of attributes.
Subhuti, what do you think? Does it occur to the Tathagata, I teach a Dharma?
No, indeed, Bhagavan, it does not occur to the Tathagata, I teach a Dharma.
Subhuti, if someone should claim the Tathagata teaches a Dharma, such a claim would be untrue. Such a view of me, Subhuti, would be a misconception. And how so? In the teaching of a Dharma, Subhuti, in the teaching of a Dharma, there is no such Dharma to be found as the teaching of a Dharma.
Bhagavan, will there be any beings in the future, the final epoch, the final period, in the final 500 years of the Dharma ending age, who hear a Dharma such as this and believe it?
Neither beings, Subhuti, nor no beings. And how so? Beings, Subhuti. Beings are all spoken of by the Tathagata, Subhuti, as no beings. Thus they are called beings. Subhuti, what do you think? Did the Tathagata realize any such Dharma as unexcelled perfect enlightenment?
No, indeed, Bhagavan. The Tathagata did not realize any such Dharma, Bhagavan, as excelled perfect enlightenment.
So it is, Subhuti, so it is. The slightest Dharma is neither obtained nor found therein. Thus it is called unexcelled perfect enlightenment. Furthermore, Subhuti, Undifferentiated is this Dharma in which nothing is differentiated. Thus it is called unexcelled perfect enlightenment. Without a self, without a being, without a life, without a soul, undifferentiated is this unexcelled perfect enlightenment by means of which all auspicious dharmas are realized. And how so? Auspicious dharmas, Subhuti. Auspicious dharmas are spoken of by the Tathagata as no dharmas. Thus they are called auspicious dharmas. Moreover, Subhuti, if a man or woman brought together as many piles of the 7 jewels as all the Mount Sumerus in the billion worlds of the universe, and gave them as a gift to the Tathagatas, the Arhans, the fully enlightened ones, and a noble son or daughter grasped but a single 4-line gata of this Dharma teaching of the perfection of wisdom, and made it known to others, Subhuti, their body of merit would be greater by more than 100-fold. Indeed, by an amount beyond comparison. Subhuti, what do you think? Does it occur to the Tathagata, I rescue beings? Surely, Subhuti, you should hold no such view. And why not? Subhuti, the being does not exist who is rescued by the Tathagata. Subhuti, if any being were rescued by the Tathagata would be attached to a self. He would be attached to a being, attached to a life, and attached to a soul. Attachment to a self, Subhuti, is said by the Tathagata to be no attachment, yet foolish people remain attached. And foolish people, Subhuti, are said by the Tathagata to be no people. Thus they are called foolish people. Subhuti, what do you think? Can the Tathagata be seen by means of the possession of attributes?
No, indeed, Bhagavan. As I understand the meaning of what the Buddha says, the Tathagata cannot be seen by means of possession of attributes.
Well done, Subhuti, well done. So it is, Subhuti, it is as you claim. The Tathagata cannot be seen by means of the possession of attributes. And why not? Subhuti, if the Tathagata could be seen by means of the possession of attributes, a universal king would be a Tathagata. Hence, the Tathagata cannot be seen by means of the possession of attributes.
As I understand the meaning of what the Buddha says, the Tathagata cannot be seen by means of the possession of attributes.
Who looks for me in form, who seeks me in a voice, indulges in wasted effort. Such people see me not. Subhuti, what do you think? Was it due to the possession of attributes that the Tathagata realized unexcelled perfect enlightenment? Subhuti, you should hold no such view. And why not? Subhuti, it could not have been due to the possession of attributes that the Tathagata realized unexcelled perfect enlightenment. Furthermore, Subhuti, someone may claim, those who set forth on the Bodhisattva path announce the destruction or the end of some dharma. Subhuti, you should hold no such view. And why not? Those who set forth on the Bodhisattva path do not announce the destruction or the end of any dharma. Furthermore, Subhuti, if a noble son or daughter took as many worlds as there are grains of sand in a Ganges, and covered them with the 7 jewels, and gave them as a gift to the Tathagatas, the Arhans, the fully enlightened ones, and a Bodhisattva gained an acceptance of the selfless, birthless nature of dharmas, the body of merit produced as a result would be immeasurably, infinitely greater. And yet, Subhuti, this fearless Bodhisattva would not obtain a body of merit.
But surely, Bhagavan, the Bodhisattva would obtain a body of merit.
They would, Subhuti, but without grasping it. Thus it is called obtaining. Furthermore, Subhuti, if anyone should claim that the Tathagata goes or comes or stands or sits or lies on a bed, Subhuti, they do not understand the meaning of my words. And why not? Subhuti, those who are called Tathagatas do not go anywhere, nor do they come from anywhere. Thus they are called Tathagatas, Arhans, fully enlightened ones. Furthermore, Subhuti, if a noble son or daughter took as many worlds as there are specks of dust in a billion-world universe, and by an expenditure of limitless energy, ground them into a multitude of atoms, Subhuti, what do you think? would there be a great multitude of atoms?
So there would, Bhagavan. So there would, Sugata. There would be a great multitude of atoms. And why? If a great multitude of atoms existed, Bhagavan, the Tathagata would not have spoken a multitude of atoms. And why? Bhagavan, this multitude of atoms of which the Tathagata speaks is said by the Tathagata to be no multitude. Thus it is called a multitude of atoms. Also, Bhagavan, this billion world universe of which the Tathagata speaks is said by the Tathagata to be no universe. Thus it is called a billion world universe. And how so? Bhagavan, if a universe existed, attachment to an entity would exist. But whenever the Tathagata speaks of attachment to an entity, the Tathagata speaks of it as no attachment. Thus it is called attachment to an entity.
Subhuti, attachment to an entity is inexplainable and inexpressible, for it is neither a dharma nor no dharma. Foolish people, though, are attached. And how so? Subhuti, if someone should claim that the Tathagata speaks of a view of a self, or that the Tathagata speaks of a view of a being, a view of a life, or a view of a soul, Subhuti, would such a claim be true?
No, indeed, Bhagavan. No, indeed, Sugata. Such a claim would not be true. And why not? Bhagavan, when the Tathagata speaks of a view of a self, the Tathagata speaks of it as no view. Thus it is called a view of a self.
Indeed, Subhuti, so it is. Those who set forth on the Bodhisattva path know, see, and believe all dharmas, but know, see, and believe them without being attached to the perception of a dharma. And why not? The perception of a dharma, Subhuti, the perception of a dharma is said by the Tathagata to be no perception. Thus it is called the perception of a dharma. Furthermore, Subhuti, if a fearless bodhisattva filled measureless, infinite worlds with the 7 jewels and gave them as an offering to the Tathagatas, the Arhans, the fully enlightened ones, and a noble son or daughter grasped but a single 4-line gata of this teaching on the perfection of wisdom, and memorized, discussed, recited, mastered, and explained it in detail to others, the body of merit produced by that noble son or daughter as a result would be immeasurably, infinitely greater. And how should they explain it? By not explaining. Thus is it called explaining. As a lamp, a cataract, a star in space, an illusion, a dewdrop, a bubble, a dream, a cloud, a flash of lightning, view all created things like this. Does somebody want to read that last paragraph?
I'll read it. All this was spoken by the Buddha to the joy of the elder Subhuti, the monks and nuns, the laymen and laywomen, the bodhisattvas, the devas, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas of the world, and all of whom were greatly pleased with what the Buddha said.
There you go. The Diamond Sutra, recited in dialogue, 40 minutes. What was it like to hear it?
Really cool. I liked hearing it.
What worked for you?
I don't know. It was just nice. It was kind of cool to read it, actually, too.
All in one sitting, you mean?
Yeah, it was nice to hear the dialogue. I hadn't done that yet. I hadn't read the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just the bits from the chapters is all I've done. So it just kind of made me remember all the different things I learned from this class. I guess all the weird little bit about him getting his limbs cut off, and I don't know. There are all these little interesting parts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think the patterns are more noticeable. The pattern and how so, or the multiple sayings of things over and over again.
Mm-hmm. For me, once the pattern was set, I noticed what stood out. Like those few places where there was a definite declaration made of something. It was like, oh, that breaks the pattern just a little bit, so it stands out. What was it like to read? To give voice to the Buddha's part, or to give voice to Subhuti's questions and answers?
I enjoyed it. There was a lot of language that's not familiar to me, so that felt a bit uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoyed it. But being Subhuti, I think must feel a lot different than being the Buddha, because there's less lines. You're responding, not necessarily having to come up with the lines, I guess. It's more responsive.
Yeah, those who read for the Buddha did a little bit of lecturing, didn't they?
Yeah, there was a worrying similarity between that experience and being in Dharma school this morning, like really trying to get them to understand some fun bodhisattva facts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which I wasn't expecting that to be like, oh, he's just teaching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and doing the reading of it, was it easier to get a sense of how Subhuti's understanding shifted, or how the Buddha rephrased things multiple times to address a new understanding?
Yeah, it was noticeable. Yeah, I mean, it was reading it all in one sitting. It was very noticeable to see the shifts and them coming back to different things, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Could you hear the what Red Pine talked about of what might have been an original ending sort of halfway through?
Mm-hmm.
There was a little bit of a conclusion, a little bit of a wrapping up, and then all of a sudden we circle back around to where we started again with how does a bodhisattva stand? How does he walk? How does he control his thoughts? And then we
And
did
the language shifts a little too, like the response language shifts.
Mm-hmm. So we have 27 minutes left. Would you like to go through these 4 last chapters? Would you like to say more about how the sutra as a whole has worked or not worked for you, or what you've taken away from it, what you are taking away from it, as this is our last class on the Diamond Sutra?
Either one. I'm good with whatever anybody wants to do. Very, very flexible today.
Yeah. Teiko, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm not feeling that well, so that's why
Okay.
I'm not. But it seemed like there were some leftovers from our last meeting that we were supposed to remind you of.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. One of them was the relationship between merit and enlightenment from the previous chapter. And I have to say, I'm not informed by that question right now. I guess I was last time.
Okay.
But
Um,
I just remember that we left that meeting. Now don't forget to bring that up.
mm-hmm. Hmm. It puts me in mind of like, it just makes me think of the wild fox koan in Zen, where this teacher gets asked a question about karma and answers definitively, and is inhabits the body of a wild fox for 500 lives, 500 generations, until he meets another master where he can ask the question that he got asked. And the way the more modern master answers is what sets him free. And like, I don't have the koan in front of me. I can't read you the original language. But I remember the way Kyogen phrased it was it was a question about karma, and the way that Kyogen phrased the correct response, or the liberating response, was, do not be deceived by karma. So it's not a karma exists or karma doesn't exist, but more along the lines of, don't let it trick you. And so I see the relationship between the body of merit and enlightenment as that it's a useful teaching tool, but don't get caught. Does that make sense? Skillful action produces benefit to the world, but it's like, don't let it be a trap. Just respond to this moment and this moment and this moment and this moment.
I think he said an enlightened person is not separate from their karma. Was that it? Was that his answer, I think?
No, I can't remember.
So sort of like...
I'll be looking at it soon because I want to use this for Sujiki.
Yeah. I looked at it a couple of years ago really closely, and I think that was what he said, and I thought that it meant something like, yes, do the skillful thing, because that's what enlightened person does, or that's what enlightened activity is, but not in order to achieve enlightenment. Mm-hmm. Or something.
It's tricky, and it's not, like, for me, there's not a one-to-one relationship there. I don't often think of body of merit, and as I go about responding to what's in front of me, I don't think, hey, this is gonna get me a +1 in the merit body. But I do recognize that when responses are skillful, there's less residue. And that in itself makes responses skillful. I wish I had a better answer for you, Teiko.
No, you don't need to. It's a good answer, and yeah, it's not your job to, I'm good with it. He talks, in the Diamond Sutra, there's so much about merit and the accrual of merit from teaching. I just find that interesting. I'm not sure what to make of that exactly. But,
I'm thinking it's a cultural leftover.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking he's functioning in a world where doing good deeds in hope of a good rebirth is the norm. And doing good deeds to accrue merit to have a good rebirth is the norm.
Yeah.
Or sort of an understood social context, the way for us, the laws of physics or evolution are part of the norm. It's part of it's part of the worldview. So if acquiring merit is something that's understood by the people who you're teaching, then that's what you use to teach. Whereas, today I gave a talk about inspiration and was quoting things from Psychology Today. So using the language of psychology and to talk about how we respond to the world.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mhm. So having completed the reading of the sutra, has it shifted your view? Or has reading it allowed your view to shift?
I think a lot more about emptiness actually now than I did. I feel like I'm just a tiny bit more, I can understand it just like barely a little bit more, I guess. And I do think about it a little bit more now. Like I'm more accepting of the idea, I think. I guess.
And how are you defining emptiness?
I don't know. I don't know how to define it, I guess. I guess that's part of it. I don't know how to define it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess kind of like interconnectedness. I guess that's part of it too, is I'm trying to figure out how to define it. I mean, how it works, I guess. And but like, I guess interconnectedness is sort of like the closest thing I can think of.
In a way, these are trick questions
Mm-hmm.
because the first couple of times I took a Wisdom Sutra class with Kyogen, I would read it and I would have a sense of it, but I could not articulate anything.
Yeah.
So I realize I'm asking you questions, and if the response is I have a sense and I can't say it, that is a valid response.
Because that's how I feel.
Yeah.
I think maybe one of my takeaways is the idea of just simply not clinging to things, and or after they stop being useful.
Mm-hmm. So going back to that metaphor of the raft.
Yeah, the raft.
In these last chapters, was the metaphors of the atoms useful at all?
Yeah.
He talked about big things being made up of smaller things, and small things being made up of even smaller things, and small things packed together to make big things.
That helps. I
So
like that.
when we use our current understanding of atoms, how matter is made up of atoms, and yet most of what's in an atom is empty space.
Mm-hmm.
When you think of your body and how much it is just empty space. So oftentimes in Buddhism, whoever's doing the teaching will use these metaphors of big things made up of small things or composite structures as ways of teaching about emptiness, in that what we see as a thing is really just our label of whatever that thing is. And it's hard to say exactly what that particular thing is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So a lot of how we function in the world is with a conventional view. It's a view that we impute and impose on our reality. And it's a flawed view because it comes to us through our senses, which are also limited and flawed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can look out at the garden and we'll see something. And if I had the vision of a butterfly who could see in infrared, there would be a whole lot more that the human eye can't see. Which is more real?
Nice.
Or if I could have the olfactory capabilities of Ananda, who's running around outside, the dog, which is more real? What's going on, Kakawan? You're making faces.
Just the preoccupation with more real. It's like you're like, which bicycle is more triangles? And it's like you can argue about, you know, how many triangles is a bicycle, but I'm not sure if it's going to get us anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the point
Yeah.
I'm trying to make.
It's just nice. It's This is so much more relaxing to me than like I'm slapping my copy of the Sutra than, you know, exhortations to be something other than what we already are.
Yeah.
Yeah, like now I feel like I really need to like double down on practicing and developing like the paramitas.
Mm-hmm.
There's an urgency there.
Kyogen used to talk a lot about being ordained into your life, and that it didn't matter if you took the form of a monk or you took the form of a layperson, but that it is important to inhabit your life fully. And I think part of what the Diamond Sutra is talking about in terms of wisdom and the cultivation of wisdom and the realization of wisdom is that complete acceptance of this moment unfolding as it is. Everything else is details that happen to unfold. Everything we are is details that happen to unfold. The magic is that we have agency.
I'm telling you, man, the same language used to just that Subhuti uses like early on, and then that the Buddha uses that same language describing unexcelled perfect enlightenment was like, you know, I don't know. I've had years of y'all and various patriarchs saying like literally the same thing, but you know, it's finally getting in there somewhere. You know.
Yeah. So that begs the question. People come to practice because they have an ordinary life and they're suffering and they hate it. And they come to practice thinking that Buddhism is going to give them something to change that will make things better.
Mm-hmm.
And they practice and they practice and they practice, and then they realize this is just ordinary life.
Mm-hmm.
What's different?
The resistance.
What about it?
When you come to a place of acceptance and you're not resisting it anymore, there's that feeling of frustration that goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And you may experience it still on occasion, but then you are more easy to recognize it and say, okay, I feel this, I recognize it. I don't have to stick to it. I can let that go and take action or not, depending upon what I want to do.
Mm-hmm. And is anything given or handed off?
Mm-mm. I think you're just, I think it's like your perception changes because you're going to just do that thing. I mean, you're like sometimes, I mean, I kind of struggle. I've been at the same job for 10 years. And so I struggle with boredom. And so I've kind of used that as my practice. Like, let's just face this boredom, I guess, you know, and just, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with that. I think it's kind of like your perception changes and you just face whatever it is you have in front of you instead of resisting it.
You stop arguing with reality.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And where does that come from?
The argument or the reality?
The capacity to accept.
Inside.
Come here, you.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the getting rid of all perceptions?
Hmm. I think the getting rid of all perceptions is more associated with that deep acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
But having that sense that this capacity is ours to begin with answers that question of how does a bodhisattva walk? How does he stand? How does he control his thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
Say that again, please.
Pardon?
The first part of it.
Once you circle around to that realization that that capacity for deep acceptance is ours to begin with. We've circled back around to how does a bodhisattva stand? How does he walk? How does he control his thoughts? And it comes back to ordinary life. It comes back to how do we conduct ourselves in this world that is provisional, that simply exists because we've added name and recognized form onto collections of objects that are always changing. It comes from seeing that we impose a sense of wanting things to be permanent on things that are not permanent, wanting things to be unitary on things that are not unitary, and wanting to hold on to a sense of ourself as an individual when ourself is just as part of the environment that surrounds us as any other object. So that said, if this was a seminary class or a graded class or something other than advanced studies that you guys are doing for your own edification, I would have an evaluation for you, but I don't. However, if you'd like to share feedback, either publicly or privately, on how the class was for you, I'd be happy to read it.
This is great.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it again.
With what? With what study object?
The Platform
Yeah.
Sutra.
Pardon?
The Platform Sutra. That would be my vote.
Okay, that's one idea. And I'm in the middle of school this semester, so like, I need a break.
Well, I thought the format worked out well. I don't know how you guys felt about the alternating weeks. I liked it because I was traveling for several of them, and it gave me the opportunity to attend it, even though I wasn't at home. But it's not ideal for everybody. But it was both. I mean, it was also good to get together.
Mm-hmm. I like the format. I'm sorry I missed a couple of the Zoom meetings, but yeah, it was great. I liked the format. I liked the only I think the only problem I had with it was kind of it was in the summer, so summer's kind of a big time.
Yeah.
But I mean, I still managed to do it. Like I managed to do all the readings and fit it in, so it worked. So.
Yeah, I want to say thank you, and I appreciate that you've all done the readings and done the reflection papers and done the contemplation and worked with this sutra and struggled with it. And I think you all had bits and pieces where you fought with it, and you all had bits and pieces where you're like, ah, okay.
You know,
And
I
it was
think
wonderful to see.
one thing that comes to me is that it could be that when I first started to read it, I thought, well, this is going to be the answer to every possible question, because this is the ultimate text right here. And it turns out, okay, I'm not going to say I found anything really new in it, because this is foundational teachings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we really have, I mean, mostly studied all of these concepts before, and some of us were, so it didn't turn out to be that experience of, okay, this is really but it was wonderful to read those as original as possible words, and for me to think about their ancientness,
Mm-hmm.
and their absolute relevance today. And so I think that was a big takeaway for me. I can't say that the language was oftentimes really opaque, but the concepts weren't anything that we haven't already really talked about in our classes, in our Dharma talks and conversations. I don't think so. So yeah, I mean, just to be saturated in the historical part of it was pretty wonderful, I thought. So I didn't know about Dipankara, so take it back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, different people tend to resonate with different sutras. Mm-hmm. And it's so pleasing that we have so many sutras that touch on similar teachings but are expressed in different ways. And yeah. Any other last thoughts before we sign off for the last time?
We should say that Laura wasn't able to be here, but she wrote and kind of invited us all to a get-together, social gathering that so you might get a doodle at, inviting, to pick a date that would work for you for that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I may have shared this with Joshin, but not maybe with the whole group, which is just, I really loved talking about this with you guys in particular.
Me too.
I would love to come out and practice with you on Wednesday nights. It was really, that for me, that was half of it, was practicing with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Back at you too. This really miss these conversations.
Yeah. I really liked the conversations. I mean, we get to chat on Wednesday nights, but it just felt really good to chat with this group. I don't know. I just liked it. I felt like it kind of challenged me, and it kind of scratched an itch, I guess, that yeah, I don't know.
Well, this is one of my favorite ways to teach, is a small group that is stable over a set number of weeks, so we can all support each other as we work with the material. So if this is something that works for you all, I would be willing to consider another advanced studies class.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe Monica, Teiko, and I and Shintai can talk and plan the next one. All right. Thank you all very much. I've appreciated your leaning into this and being willing to let it shape you. And for those coming out to Wy'East on Wednesday, we're having our art night.
What?
I'll get you your blurb for the little e-bulletin announcement probably tomorrow morning.
Okay, sounds good.
You're welcome to come sit with us anytime, of course. You don't need a special invitation. And if you want to be on our mailing list, ask Monty's and runs that. So
Yeah.
Please add me to your mailing list.
Yeah. Let's see. I'll send an email to our little group here if you want to be on the mailing list. That way I think you'll have my email that way. And then you can respond and I can put you on the mailing list. I think that'll work. You'll have. Would you like me to bring art supplies to the art nights?
Yes, please.
Okay,
At least
art supplies.
at least paper and if you have crayons or markers, that would be great. And I'll probably in the blurb, I'll probably have you ask people to bring something. Yeah.
Sounds good.
And if anybody still gets newspaper, something to protect the floors.
Oh, yes.
I thought like a big bid sheet. Would that work?
That works too.
Or
Yeah.
or something like
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
that. Thank
All right.
you so much, Josh, and
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
all of you guys.
you.
This is sad. I'm sad. I don't like endings.
R.I.P.
Bye-bye.